Knowledge is Power Podcast Live with your host, Tony Redfro, and my co-hosts, Madonna Sherwood and Francis Larkins.
Knowledge is Power Podcast Live starts now.
And everybody, and we are here with attorney Chance Lynch from Hello.
Hey Tony, you went out with on me for a moment. I'm sorry, but
That's
I'm
all right.
I'm glad to be with you, man. Thank you
Yes.
for
All
having me
right.
on. It's an honor.
All right, I'm gonna hold on for a second and get a shout out to some of our listeners right now. Hello, Dolores Moore Smiths. Glad to have you this evening, and we're going to. We've had my co-host in here, and I guess they popped out, and they're probably going to pop back in. But Attorney Lynch, we're going to dive right into this message here tonight. You are the attorney for Christopher Shaw, who was injured in the care of the Beaumont Police Department and the Jefferson County Sheriff Correctional Office facilities. And I want you to help us to give us a timeline on what happened, high story, but just to give your spiel. So, LaDonna, I kind of introduced Attorney Chance, but I'll let you go ahead and get
Let me make sure I'm on my computer now. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you and see you.
Okay, perfect. So we're super excited about our guest tonight. We have Attorney Chance Lynch, and the NAACP has been following this pretty closely. We've actually submitted several letters requesting the release of that video footage that paralyzed Christopher Shaw. And we are looking forward to taking a little bit of a deep dive tonight and gathering some information and just kind of letting our audience know where we are and what we can expect in the very near future. We're looking forward to doing everything that we can to just make sure that transparency in policing is paramount. So we're excited about having Attorney Chance Lynch here tonight, and he's going to give us a little bit of background.
Tony, did you want me to jump right on in? And it's going out on me again.
Okay.
There it is. All right. So let me thank you guys for your interest in this. This is it's a critical matter that's impacting the Beaumont community, and it's the privilege and honor of my life to go all over the country serving families and helping them and giving voice to the indigent and the underserved. Again, I'm Chance Lynch. I'm a national civil rights attorney, and I am the lead counsel for Christopher Shaw. And I serve alongside, I have a dynamic team that we work arm in arm. Harry Daniels from Atlanta, Georgia, Demetria Howard Watkins from Dallas, Texas, Scott Palmer and James Rogers from Dallas, Texas as well. We all make up the legal team for Christopher Shaw, and it's absolute honor to be able to serve beside them as we seek justice for Chris Shaw. On June 12th, 2021, Chris Shaw, a 41-year-old native of Beaumont, Texas, who worked as a cook in a local hotel, was arrested for public intoxication. Public intoxication is one of those charges. I'm a former district attorney in North Carolina, so I used to be a prosecutor. I've served as a defense attorney for over 10 years and civil rights attorney. And public intoxication is just one of those charges where the person is usually arrested and detained so that they can be protected and they won't hurt themselves. And so he was arrested for public intoxication by the Beaumont Police Department. What happens is a series of events. After he was arrested, he was taken to Baptist Hospital and then taken to the Jefferson County Jail. When he got to Jefferson County Jail, he was escorted inside by the Beaumont police officer along with 3 other Jefferson County correctional officers. When he got inside of the jail, on the video that we've been able to see, you will see Mr. Shaw is detained and restrained by 3 of the Jefferson County correctional officers, and the Beaumont police officer escorts him inside as well, and he's present. There is an officer on each side of Mr. Shaw. He's up against a wall, and there is one officer that is mostly in front of his body. The Beaumont police officer reaches beyond. There is something that he's holding in his hand. He takes it and he tosses it across the room, and he snatches Mr. Shaw out of the custody and control of these correctional officers. When he snatches Mr. Shaw out of their custody, and I don't know if I said this, but let me make this thing plain. Mr. Shaw's hands were handcuffed behind him the entire time. From the time that he arrived on the campus of the Jefferson County Correctional Facility, his hands were at all times handcuffed behind his body. And so when he gets inside, the officer snatches him out of the custody of these correctional officers, and he literally flips his body over in the air, causing him to land on his head on a concrete floor. You see his body go limp. LaDonna, I was talking to LaDonna about this, and I have seen a number of police videos and camera footage. Sadly, I've seen brothers and sisters die on camera at the hands of the police. I thought I was witnessing a murder. I thought I was witnessing a death. His body goes completely limp while he's lying on that floor. Ambulance is called. The ambulance comes, they pick him up. He's taken back to Baptist Hospital. In Baptist Hospital, they release him and says that there's nothing wrong with him. They release this man who was just body slammed, who is completely limp. He returns back to the Jefferson County Jail. And when he gets back to the Jefferson County Jail, you can see this same police officer, along with another police officer, wheeling him in a wheelchair. And he's actually holding up Mr. Shaw's legs so that his legs do not drag the ground while he's pushing him inside the jail. They literally have to hold his body up so that they can change him. And subsequently, Mr. Shaw lies in a cell on the floor for over 18 hours in his own urine. For over 18 hours in the Jefferson County Jail. No one helps him. He lies there without any ability to move. And eventually, after 18 hours or more, ambulance is called. He's taken to St. Elizabeth's Hospital, and several hours after being there, he undergoes emergency surgery, where they learn that he's had several fractures and breaks in his spinal cord, breaking his neck and several areas of his spinal cord, leaving him paralyzed from the chest down. Now even today, after undergoing all those surgeries and being released, he still cannot walk.
I got a question. I want to stop you. I hate to, but this is what I do. So I need to get some clarity.
Sure.
So let's make sure. Goes to Baptist twice?
Goes to Baptist twice.
Before they bring him to Jefferson County, they bring him to Baptist. They bring him to Jefferson County. The incident occurs. They bring him back to Baptist, where he's brought back to jail, lifeless or not moving, and he stays there. So let me ask you, just on a side note, is the hospital the records or anybody there being questioned or something?
I think those are excellent questions. Let me answer it this way. Based off of our research and our conversation with the Jefferson County Jail, we're able to see the timeline of events of where he went, when he came, when they took him back, when he came back to that jail. And so we've made the appropriate requests to be able to see the medical records, to be able to see what treatment he received, because he was cleared when he got to the Jefferson County Jail by Baptist Hospital, which concerns us because this man had a broken neck. How could he be cleared to go back to jail? And I'm gonna tell you something else, LaDonna. I mean, think about this: the same officer who assaulted him was the officer who took him to the hospital and brought him back from the hospital. And so I think that, to answer your question, and I can't say but so much because I can't reveal legal strategy, but I can tell you that you're asking the appropriate questions, that this is a hospital in your community that sees an African-American man who cannot move his body, but says that he's okay, he's cleared to go to jail, and he lies in that jail for over 18 hours in his own urine. That's a problem. And so I think that's a good question to ask. And what else did you need to see? When the video that we saw, we didn't see him brought back on an ambulance. We saw him brought back in a cop car, in a truck, SUV. And so they had to wheel him in, and he still had the inability to be able to do it. Where in their mind do you see a man that you actually have to physically hold up so that you can change him out and change his clothes, that you not think is something wrong with him? He should not be in this jail. None of that happened.
Where
it's breaking up, Tony. It's breaking up. We can't hear you. You might have to put it in the chat or check your connection.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, I said it just popped back in. Listening to reading the police report, and I understand that I had to do my homework before we talked about it, come on the show, is that the officer is stating that that Chris Shaw was rebellious and was fighting back. How can a man fight or be rebellious handcuffed behind his back?
Well, look, Tony, think about this. What was he arrested for? He was arrested for public intoxication.
Right.
How can someone who's intoxicated have the ability to comply? When you are a police officer, there is an expectation that you will engage people who are intoxicated, who will not have but so much control. Now,
right.
To the extent,
right? I guess by the mere definition, intoxicated, inebriated, all of that mean inertiated. It can't. It means no go.
His hands are behind his back.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing about it is, non-compliance is not a warrant for you to exercise that type of force. It's not non-compliance or not obeying an officer's command is not enough. It is not a warrant. It is not a license to exercise that type of force. The force that he used, I would go as far as saying it was unlawful. Not only was it unlawful, it was excessive for him to flip a man whose hands are behind his back. There were 3 other officers who had him detained. Now, this is what's so important. There were 3 other officers who had him detained and other officers at their beck and call. They were inside a jail facility. If that person was so hard to contain, to restrain, there was a staff who was capable to be able to help if it was needed. But it wasn't 3 who jumped on him. It was 3 who stood by, who had him restrained. It was 1 Beaumont police officer who yanked him out of the custody of those 3 who had him restrained and flipped him. He had no way to brace himself, no way to brace himself before the fall, no way to protect any of his limbs, and it caused him to land on the concrete floor. Now, that's why they don't want the video out. They don't want people to see it.
Well, I've been kind of perplexed about the statements of the chief of police, who said he stands by side or behind his officer's actions. As a public relations person, I just feel, and this is just me speaking my mind here loosely as we're on the podcast, I think as a chief, oftentimes when we're not there, it's better to say less is more, but to say you stand behind an officer whose actions like you say, we're in the company of other officers who did not do the same action, then it's kind of like, he would have almost done better saying, the officer's actions are questionable and we're going to improve our sensitivity training, or we're going to reevaluate the way our mechanism for handling people that are intoxicated. Any number of wording could have been used to kind of assuage the situation, whereas this language seems a little bit more poignant and invective towards other people. In other words, you have no sensitivity or compassion for the actual instance because somebody's intoxicated or not responding appropriately to be paralyzed and then charged with assault on somebody who's walking around seems a little bit out of place, I would say.
Well, LaDonna, I would go as far as saying that this police chief, his response is not a surprise. And I'm going to say that. I'm going to tell you why I say that. I've done my research on Beaumont. And so this is not the first time that Beaumont's police officers have abused and have brutalized Black folk.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's just call it the way it is. I mean, even when you look at the Derek Newman case, when he was beaten with the nightstick, when I came to Beaumont to meet Mr. Shaw, and he was lying in that hospital room, his family showed me a video, and I've been looking for that video ever since, because on that video it showed a white police officer for Beaumont who was in a parking area with a bunch of Black bystanders, and they were recording what was happening because the police were there, and he was telling them to move back, get back, get back. And his comment was, and I heard it with my own ears, he said, we don't care what's going on around the world. This is Beaumont, Texas. This is the mentality of this police department that this chief is at the helm of. I mean, he's there at it he's leading this. And for him to say that he stands by his guys, here's what puzzles me. I know that you said that we could be more sensitive, we'll do some training. Listen, excuse my expression, but bump that.
Mm-hmm.
No, charge him. Be the law enforcement, bumper training. The training will start after he's arrested.
Right.
The training will start after he's prosecuted.
And my theory is, and I'm just going I'm saying their public relations department, right, I'm certain didn't direct him to say what he said, because that was just the most insensitive comment that you could have made at a time like this. I'm saying from a PR perspective, you could have spent that jargon into anything you wanted it to be, instead to just say, I stand behind the action of my officers. You should have said some type of, you know what I mean? You should have gave us.
I'm doing an investigation. We're going to do an internal affairs.
Right. Anything.
We're reviewing the
like
video.
I say, give me something. We're doing some training. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're working on it.
Well, let me ask Attorney Chance this, Lynch. Have anybody seen the police body cam?
No. Not well. Let me say this. I said that quickly, but let me put it this way. We have not seen it. Now, who the chief has allowed to see, I'm not sure. But we've written a letter asking to inspect it and for it to be released. The only response that we've gotten from him, from Jimmy Singletary, is, I'm turning this over to my attorney. That's it. He has not given us a chance to be able to come in to view it. We don't know what and who has seen it. We have seen the surveillance camera at the jail. Zena Stevens, the elected sheriff, has allowed us to come in. We've seen it. We've looked at it. I mean, over and over, we've been able to look at it from different angles, and it is clear. It's clear to us, and it's clear to those who have seen it, that Mr. Shaw did not make contact with his officer. There was no contact made.
Well, let me ask you, why is it then that the Christopher Shaw is being charged with assault of a police officer? Because that's charges that he's been brought up on, and we think it's being strategically charged as far as, I mean, the gentleman, if he was assaulted, I'm not sure if you have any knowledge, but did he present any injuries or anything that we may not be abreast of? Can you enlighten us?
So the only thing that our team has read is that he gave either an affidavit or a written statement, or he gave testimony to the grand jury that I think that maybe he scraped his arm or something. The only
That he
thing
probably did himself.
that
That he
well
probably did it. I'm just gonna
the,
be real. Let's and not to cut you off, Lawyer Lynch. I'm just gonna be straight up. We all know what this is. If it look like a duck, it quack like a duck. It's a damn duck. Okay? At the end of the day, they have done some egregious acts to this young man. Then on top of that, they want to turn around and retaliate against him when he turns around and seek legal counsel from two national civil rights attorneys. Come on, it don't take a rocket scientist to read this play what they're doing. But just know, Beaumont, you about to be on national news because we're not going to play with none of this. We want all the videos from not just Beaumont PD. We want it from Jefferson County, and you're going to unleash it. Because at the end of the day, transparency needs to be brought to the community. That's what needs to happen.
With Dr. Matthews, understanding that Attorney Lynch is saying that he has seen the Jefferson County Sheriff Department have shown him the videos. They've looked at it at all angles, and so I understand.
But he's seen it though. But he's seen it. Now let's be clear. What happened with George Floyd? What happened with Breonna Taylor? Right? Those videos the community were able to see in plain sight. And what happened? See, they do not want the black folks to come together and create a situation. So they doing this strategic. But they might as well get ready because the civil rights, big wigs, they got their eyes fixed on Beaumont.
Well, you know, Dr. Matthews, I think the point that she raised is true. We absolutely believe that it's retaliatory. We think that what they did was retaliatory. The only time when Mr. Shaw when he arrived at the Jefferson County Jail the first time, not after they broke his neck and took him to the hospital, the first time with his hands behind him, we saw when they were outside going in, where it looks as if the officer was trying to flip him then, and he was unsuccessful. And at that point, we saw that they both fell on the ground. Now, and then the other officers came out. Now, to your point, Tony, to answer your question, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's okay.
But if they both fell on the ground, the only thing in our mind is that he's using, when they both fell on the ground, a means of saying, oh, well, I was assaulted because I fell on the ground at the same time. There was no overt action by Mr. Shaw that we have seen where he could
no kicking, no punching. Well, no punching. No.
His hands were behind him. We didn't see where his legs made contact. We saw at one point when he was with those other officers that he may have become irate. They had him detained and restrained. It looks like his leg may have gone up, but no one came in contact with the leg. It wasn't even up enough to be able to make a kick at someone. And you got to remember that 3 officers are there. So for an officer, the question you have to ask, was there enough for him to believe that his life was an imminent threat or imminent harm was present, with 3 other officers having this man detained while his arms are behind his back and he is restrained, that he had enough time to take what he had in his hand, toss it, grab him, yank him out of the custody and control of people who already had him detained, to flip him? What was the cause during that time for that to happen?
Well, see, the enemy threat was actually to Mr. Shaw, because how you gonna run around assaulting officers and you are detained and dangerous? How you gonna jump from a public intoxication? How can you jump from a public intoxication to now you paralyzed? That don't make sense.
Well, you know, that's why we've been saying we wouldn't have to describe what's on that video if they would just release it. You know, you wouldn't have to rely on my recollection of it if they would just release the video.
Right. I would have all these questions if did he kick anybody? Did he punch anybody? Did he do this? Did he do that? We would. And my theory, my theory on that is, like you say, with the retaliatory charge, I'm assuming this is the ongoing investigation that's impeding the release of the video. Am I correct?
Yes, that's what they're using as a basis, saying that there is this investigation because he's being charged, etc. And we will be able to get the videos through criminal discovery. The law requires, there's a case called Brady v. Maryland that says that we're able to get discovery we have made the appropriate discovery request. We have not had that honored yet by the district attorney's office. So I know that Sheriff Zena Stevens, she has the video, but the district attorney also has the video. And so the district attorney could release it if he wanted to. But you have a system here where the counsel for the sheriff is in the same office as the elected district attorney.
That's right.
That the elected district attorney works with the Beaumont police chief and his officers on a 24/7 basis with prosecuting cases, and you have friends having to investigate and hold the other friend accountable.
That's it. That's it. Boy,
there's been no evidence that we know of any charges or presentation made to the grand jury against the officer. So if there was a presentation of evidence against Mr. Shaw to the grand jury, then why wasn't there any presentation of evidence against the officer for a grand jury to be able to see the video to make a decision? These are questions that the community have to raise.
Okay, I got a question then, because I'm gonna tell you how that video came out. The video would actually came out and it was showing that the police officer was in the right. They would have had no problem showing it. But clearly, we know, based on your recollection is that this officer was clearly in the right. So that's why they're not going to try to release that video. So that's why they're going to try to make you guys go through all these rules, and then we don't have to do all the stuff that we don't have to do in this game. And that's interesting. Corruption.
If y'all could recap, it was kind of breaking up.
Right.
I couldn't make out everything that
she said
that she was saying. I heard corruption
right
at the end.
Candace, Dr. Candace Matthews, you have so much noise in the background. We can't quite hear you clearly, and you I don't know if you're traveling or whatever, but we can't hear you clearly. But if you can repeat that again, please.
Okay, can y'all hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so basically what I was saying is that if the video would have showed that the officer was justified in the right, then I guarantee we wouldn't have the issue having the video. But clearly, as the recollection that Attorney Lynch has shared with us, it clearly shows that this officer was in complete wrong, and it was complete police brutality. So that's why they don't want to release the video. You see what I'm saying? So clearly, as we all know, what we see here is corruption. This is what it is, and it needs to be uncovered. We need to have transparency. We need to have accountability, and then we need to have Chief Singletary. They need to take his T-close license. They need to take all of them and get a whole new thing over again. And that's my point, and I'm sticking to it. And I said what I said.
Okay. LaDonna?
Attorney Lynch, do you have anything else that you want to add that maybe we missed or maybe we haven't discussed so far? Anything that we need to be mindful of or on the lookout, or, just in the coming months or future tense, aside from, I'm guessing, the start of this trial against Christopher Shaw will help shed some light on releasing the video, because like you say, once the trial starts, the video will be released anyway, right?
Well, the video will be released. The criminal discovery, based on Texas law, even when we get it in discovery, there are rules that will prohibit us from being able to release it based off of the Texas rules of professional conduct. And so even if we get it in hand, because we are his attorneys and his legal consultants, we still are limited based off of Texas rules and law from being able to let the general public see it. But here's the thing, LaDonna. We need the community to take a stand. When we were there a couple of weeks ago, I made the comment that it was probably about 100 people out. And I told them, don't be discouraged by it being a small crowd. And one of the examples that I gave, my undergraduate university is North Carolina A&T State University. We pride ourselves off of being a historically Black college and university, that we are the top HBCU in the country, and we produce the most engineers. But a part of that is the sit-in movement did not start with 4,000. The sit-in movement started with 4 college freshmen who lived in Scott Hall, who were tired of being abused, and who decided to fight a systemic system of prejudice and racism in that city. And what did they do? They got dressed, they marched down to the Woolworth restaurant downtown Greensboro, and they sat there. They allowed tea and hot coffee to be poured upon their heads so that they could go back to their freshman dorms, change clothes, and do it all over again the next day. What happened from there? These same 4 men created the sit-in movement that went from there to Winston-Salem, from Winston-Salem to Durham, North Carolina, and from Durham across the entire country. And so sometimes we think that success is built off of size. It's not. It's built off of structure. And what I said to that community on that day is the same thing that I'm echoing right now to all of your listeners that I'm so privileged to be able to speak to right now, that we need the community to stand up and take control of their home. I don't want to have to come back to Beaumont to represent another family who was brutalized and abused and broken by the hands of the police department of Beaumont, Texas. When we can make a stand and let the world know, bring all of the eyes to Beaumont, not because we are trying to get attention, we're trying to affect change. This is something that is systemic, and it is reoccurring in Beaumont, Texas. The police department feels that they can only use the Constitution as a paperweight, that they can only use the amendments and the clauses in the Constitution. They can only use that as a fan, like they're sitting in church and they're hot. And so we need the people to be able to stand up that the same way that you treat white citizens is the same way you should treat Black citizens. Black and brown, they deserve to be treated the exact same way. You cannot swear on a Bible and take an oath that you're going to protect and serve the same citizens that you abuse, neglect, and take advantage of and break the laws against. And so we're asking this community to write letters. We need community, start marching. It can be, make sure we are encouraging people. Mr. Shaw has asked everyone, please keep it peaceful. Please keep your marches and your protests peaceful, but by all means march. Write letters to the chief, call the sheriff, go to the sheriff's office and write a letter saying, why aren't you releasing the video? Write the district attorney, hold your and listen, not only that, hey, listen, Tony and LaDonna, think about this. The chief serves at the pleasure of the city council.
Amen.
So why is the chief allowed to stand up and say, I stand behind my men, and no city council member has anything to say? No city council member.
Boy, you just ring the bell. Go ahead and ring it.
But you know why? Because he know where all the bodies buried. Let's just look at what it is. He know why all the bodies buried. All corrupt folks roll together.
Well, you know,
all gonna protect each other.
Well, we've got a saying where I'm from. I'm from North Carolina, and we've got a saying on where I'm from. And what we say is, what doesn't come out in the wash will come out in the rinse. And so this is where we are. I mean, we are in a place and time where it is necessary. And people say, oh, well, I haven't seen the video. Well, let me listen. We go all over the country representing families. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Andrew Brown case in Elizabeth City, North Carolina, where police officers in Pasquotank County shot a Black man in his vehicle while he was driving away from them. I had to go in and view that video. When I went in to view the video, I came out, and what I stated I saw did not match what the elected district attorney claimed happened. He claimed that one thing happened. That's not what I saw. And so when I came out, I was the only attorney to be able to see the full video. When I went in and came out to release to the world what I saw, and all eyes and people were watching, waiting to see what I was going to say happened on that video, They tried to dispute it. Well, why would I come out and lie, knowing that at some point the video is going to be released? Why would I have to change what I saw in that video to create a narrative that I know would not be supported later? Some people say, oh, I haven't seen the video. Well, you can't see air, but you still breathe it. You can't see God, but you still believe. So what is it? What you need to see is this. You don't have to see the video. All you have to do is see Chris Shaw. All you have to do is see him in that wheelchair. And you compare a man who weighs probably 150 pounds wet, sitting in a wheelchair, compared to a man that's twice his size, who carries a gun and a taser and a badge. And you know that he was flipped over, landing on a concrete floor with his hands behind his back, while that man was able to get up and walk away and go home to his family, while you've got Chris Shaw, who's at home tonight and he needs help getting up to get to the bathroom. He can't even use a lavatory without assistance. He can't get dressed without assistance. He can't feed himself. He has a newborn grandson that he cannot get up and play with and run behind. He can't change his grandson's diaper because the same person that took an oath to protect him is at home with his family. And you say that you need to see the video? Don't worry about the video right now. Let's just take a look at Mr. Shaw. Think about what his Christmas is going to be like. Let's think about what his Thanksgiving is going to be like. And you know the difference between George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Eric Gardner, all of these people, and may God rest their souls with all that they've had to endure and what we've been able to witness their death. Here's the difference between them and Mr. Shaw. Mr. Shaw survived to tell the story. He's here. We are able to see firsthand. We don't need anybody to tell us what they think happened. It's not an autopsy. We don't need a pathologist to tell us what happened. We have the living proof of police brutality in the person of Christopher Shaw. And we're angry. We're upset. And Beaumont should be upset too.
Amen. I believe.
And you know what I've been hearing is, because we keep our hand on the pulse of the community. What we've been hearing mostly is, oh, I don't like what happened. I don't support or condone what happened. Well, if you don't like it and you don't support it and you don't condone it, I guess it's just because it's not at your door that it's really not that important. And even like you say, even if you didn't make it a black or a white thing, nobody would want their child to be drunk or high, or whatever the case may be, and then show up paralyzed after being drunk or high. Because, I mean, that's half of the world. That's 70-80% of us. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. To say I don't like it is really not enough. You're right. We've got to get involved. We've got to do something. Some of us have been accused of speaking out of turn or not getting all our facts together, but we want to be found doing good, for goodness sake. We want to be found doing something instead of doing nothing, sitting on our hands. We also want to be found knowing that this injustice to Christopher Shaw could have been any one of our
anybody,
family members or person.
Yep, it could have been anybody.
But and then let me just say this, and I like how you say when y'all check the pulse of the community to see like what they're saying. And what I find very disturbing is that they normalize this type of behavior. That goes to show what the culture of Beaumont is. And in order to have some type of transitional leadership, transformational leadership, you guys have to stand up and be like, hey, enough is enough. We're not going to tolerate this behavior. Y'all should not just normalize this. And this is really taking me back to the Jim Crow era. From what I'm hearing, if this is all of what they're saying, and then if it turns back around, then it happened to your family member, then you want everybody to come out the woodwork. No, we don't need to normalize this behavior at all. Accountability, that it needs to be had, y'all. And we can't just sit up here and normalize like it's okay. We can't normalize corruption. We can't do that.
You know, Dr. Matthews, my mother went to jail marching for civil rights and equal rights in the 60s. And she she often tells a story of how she and my grandmother were arrested and taken to jail, and how she remembers seeing a man in the community who was sprayed with water hose, and how his clothes were ripped from his body, and police dogs. I hear my mom speak of those, and one of the things that I appreciate about that era is that they stood up for people that it was happening to, even if it didn't happen to them. And we live in a society, sadly, now where we can be angry enough or disappointed that it happened, but we're not angry until it knocks on our door. In Beaumont is not that big. It's a small community, and the police know who to pick on, and they know who to leave alone. And anyone who can see a man at 41 who was able-bodied, 41 years old, that's a young man that's able-bodied to be able to get up and walk, who would sometimes walk to work and can no longer, can barely even adjust himself in his own bed because he was publicly intoxicated. That's a problem. And the community has to begin to ask questions. And I'm soliciting the leaders, those leaders in the community, be it whatever organization you're part of. Doesn't matter whether it's a black organization, whether it's an organization that's white, churches, pastors in the community. People say, well, I don't want to get involved. Well, I'm also a pastor. And Micah, the book of Micah, it says, what does the Lord require of you? That you act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God. So how can you sit, even as a pastor, and know that there is someone in the community that doesn't have a voice, whose voice has been stolen, and that they have been left crippled, and you be okay with it?
Or act as if us requesting or requiring the video is some kind of way an injustice to, or we're targeting police, or we're not targeting police, and we're not against police, but we are against things that are wrong. I heard you say the other day, Martin Luther King said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. This is true. This has nothing to do if it was a black kid or white kid, and I say kid, but black man, white man, whatever. If the police dump anybody on their head that went in walking and they cannot move, that should offend everybody.
You should
offend not just offend certain groups. That should offend everybody, because everybody's somebody. He might not be nothing to you. He may not mean anything to you, but he's something to his family, to his group, to his people. Like I said originally, this touched me originally because Christopher Shaw is my classmate and somebody I would consider a friend. We grew up together. This is not just somebody that I'm just going on a mission to be rah, whatever. I feel personally some type of way, and regardless to me of whatever he may have done, if he did not literally kill somebody or maim somebody or rape or molest, or even then they have a day in court, not to take away the activity of their limbs. You know what I mean? I can't wrap my head around it. And then of course we're being tasked with being too passionate or too overzealous about certain things. No, this is unacceptable. Unacceptable just means unacceptable across the board, period. And to say you stand behind your officers, to me, that's a slap in the face to normal people. How can you? What are you saying? Only some people rights matter. The officers' safety and security matters, but other people's safety and security doesn't matter. They should be weighed about the same. If he wasn't a threat, or like you say, imminent danger to the officer, then now you got to justify your actions. And we can't, as a community, view the actions of the officer or the actions of Christopher Shaw. But even if we saw Christopher Shaw, like you said, let's just deal with Christopher Shaw for a moment. We can see what happened to him.
Right.
There is no indication of any injuries severe to the officer. We can't see any life-changing experience to the officer.
Right.
Okay, and let's take that back to that chief of police with the statement that he made, right? Spoken like a true Klansman. So we're going to let's call it like it is. Spoken like a true Klansman. So at the end of the day, I mean, he claimed that he's standing behind his office and all of that kind of crap. Okay, because they was over there sitting in the same row at the Klan meeting. So let's just be clear for what it is. Look at what's happening in Beaumont. Beaumont is nothing more but a kilometer away from Vida, which is the headquarters of the Ku Klux Klan. Beaumont is really nowhere from Jasper, Texas, where James Byrd was drugged. This is a normalized behavior. This is what happens when you have wicked people in high places. That's what this is. And he's spoken just like a true Klansman. And I said it, and I come and tell you I said it.
Attorney Shaw. I'm sorry, Attorney Lynch. I'm so sorry. Hey, it's been so good, and I'm so glad that you come aboard and accepted our invitation here on Knowledge is Power podcast. And we want to make sure this message gets out into the communities, into the homes of people who. I don't want you to have to come back to Beaumont for somebody in my family, or maybe me, you know. Because
my boy.
Right, my child, you know, and it touched me, and it touched us as hosts of this show when this thing first occurred. And the only thing that upset me the most is that the Beaumont Police Department tried to sweep it under the rug.
And you know, Tony, when we had that show and I was on here going, we were at the time were the only group that had called it out for what it was.
That's
we
right.
were the only group that kicked it off. They got the phones ringing.
Because if we had not got involved in it and started digging in it, they would have swept it under the rug and called it, and it was a cover up.
Well, just know, y'all, we're going to bring national attention to this. So just know, the Rainbow Push Coalition have already stated that they got their eyes fixed on Beaumont, as well as all the big civil rights organizations. So it will not be swept under the rug. It's going to be on CNN, MSNBC. It's going to be on all of them.
And like Attorney Lynch mentioned earlier, is that the good part about it, not really good, but one of the things about it is that Chris Shaw is able to tell it. He didn't have his knee under his neck for nine minutes. He wasn't shot in his bed sleeping. He wasn't killed fleeing the police. He's able to tell the story. And that is going to be so important. And we must stay on top of this, and we must continue.
Tony, do you have any comments or questions that we need to address before we let them go?
Well, I mean, unless you want to go to the comment board.
I just wanted to make sure we're not leaving no audience out that wants to know something that we haven't asked.
Yeah, I think so. Let's go to the brand board and see what we've got here. I know we have a tournament coming. You want to bring that up? Let's see here. Let me get that off. Okay. No, you're not there. I think you're muted.
Oh, yes, I was muted. I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay.
I was steady talking.
All right. Go ahead.
Oh, anyway, we have the first annual Lafayette Spivey Golf Tournament with the NAACP. You can register now. I think it's just regular registration because early registration ended on September the 20th. But this is going on October the 9th, which is, I think, next weekend. So you want to get registered. You want to do it now. You can do it at NAACP on Facebook or NAACP.com. I think it's Beaumont.com. You breaking up, Tony?
Okay, now. Okay.
All
right.
We got Diabetes Awareness Month, and that's coming up November the 13th. That's going to be in Rogers Park, but we got a little bit of time on that, a little over a month.
Okay. And I think that's about all we have.
And no comments. Okay, well, that's good.
We do have a couple of comments on the comment board. I'm going to reach out to Miss Cheryl Richards Jackson, and she's the person that visit the young man, Christopher Shaw, after he was released from the hospital, and he indeed was paralyzed. No assistance was offered to help him, and I think we talked about that. We went over that as well. And I also have Trisha Primo, and the second trip. She wanted to know about the trips to the hospital. She thinks she didn't know anything about the third time. The third time when he went to the hospital was for surgery. Am I correct about that? And also we've got.
Well, I think that her question was, do we know if Baptist actually saw him? Can we prove he actually seen that time by the hospital? And my response to that is we have requested the appropriate documentation to be able to see the timeline in that. We can only go based off of what the jail's records will show by him leaving the jail, them having to come back and report. We've been told by the elected sheriff that he went to Baptist and came back, and that's when he stayed in that cell. So that's my answer to that.
Okay, Fred Fuchsley is on YouTube. He said, "Why do I ask?" Okay, I don't know what the first question was. Oh, you asked about let's see here about the body cam. We talked about that.
I wanted to ask that too. I got sidetracked, but I wanted to know: does BPD have any video footage that if it's been visible to anybody? Beaumont Police, not Jefferson County, but
we know that we know that BPD has body cam footage. We have not been able to inspect it and see it. We don't know what it shows. And we haven't been able to come into the police department because, like I said, the chief has avoided us and has not commented and made any correspondence to us. So
no BPD footage has been viewed at all.
Not with us. Now, if there are some other people that the chief has allowed to come and see the video, then that's what the chief has done, but he's not allowed us to see it. So I can't speak to that. I know that it exists, but we have not seen it.
Okay, and he also said because of the video evidence, did the DA present to the grand jury that proved Shaw was guilty, but the cop was innocent?
We don't know what was presented to the grand jury. We only know an article that we read that says that he had some type of scrape or something, and felonious assault on a government on a peace officer in Texas requires that the officer suffer some type of injury, that something happens, but there was no overt action that we have seen any contact made with Mr. Shaw to cause any injury to that police officer. And I want to say this because I didn't get to say it earlier, is that I want y'all to notice that the indictment came after my legal team and I showed up and began to ask questions and demand this video.
That's right.
All right, so I think that's really important. If you look at the time of the indictment, it was after we had several television interviews, after people start making requests. I know that LaDonna also made a request on behalf of NAACP, and after we made the request, I mean, it was weeks, almost a month or two after that the indictment came. So I'll leave that up to you. I'm not going to tell you what to think. I'm just going to give it to you.
That's our strategy. I'm just gonna be straight up. I know who's seen that Beaumont PD video, the Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan, and I'm sticking to it.
Also, Fred is asking if there is a video that shows Mr. Shaw assaulting the cop. It would be all over. If it was, it would be all over the news. Correct. It'd be a big, huge dog and pony show. And, I'm a witness of that. They would not be trying to hide a video that would exonerate the cops or this particular policeman.
Right. And they're trying to take advantage of the black community and the brown community in Beaumont by thinking that the black and brown community does not care, that they're not involved, that they're not staying abreast of what's happening in their own community, and hoping that it would be swept under the rug. And so that's why we're so grateful for leaders like you all to take the interest in this, to be able to bring it to the forefront, to be that voice like John the Baptist crying out in the wilderness, that even when it's not popular, it's productive. And so I'm grateful for your leadership, and we appreciate that. On behalf of the Shaw family, we appreciate you.
Yeah, well, great. I appreciate you and your law firm to come down here to Beaumont, Texas, and and I'd like for you to ask the community let's get behind this Chris Shaw, and let's bring this corruption to a close. Also, we want justice for Chris Shaw.
That's right.
In closing, do you have anything else you'd like to add, Mr. Lynch?
No, I just want to encourage everybody to start to keep in touch with you all, to reach out to Dr. Matthews so that you all can be a part of it. We're planning to come back. I know that we've been working with the Rainbow Push Coalition. Bishop Grant we have his support along, of course, with the Reverend Jesse Jackson and those leaders from the Rainbow Push who are standing with us to bring attention to this very, very important matter. And so we need the Beaumont community to do it. I said when I came there and that I didn't want the fire to die when we left. I'm hoping that we'll start a fire there, that people will begin to write letters, to protest, to exercise their legal constitutional right to protest, to do it peacefully, and to demand the release of this video, and to demand that this officer be held accountable.
That's right.
To start the process of saying, you know what, you do not get to serve our community if you're going to break the law. You do not get to violate our constitutional rights because we're Black. You do not get to abuse us and cause injury to us and not have to answer, because what that cop did that day, he became the judge and the jury. And that is not the fabric of our Constitution or our country. That is not what is woven in the fabric of our Constitution and what this country is supposed to represent. And we need the Beaumont community to stand behind Christopher Shaw. We need that name. We need it in every house. We need it spread it out on all social media outlets. Justice for Chris Shaw. It begins with the community, and we appreciate it and we need you.
Thank you so much. Thank you again, Attorney Chance Lynch of Lynch Law in South Carolina, correct?
No, in North Carolina.
North Carolina, okay.
Yes, Lynch Law in North
It
Carolina.
wouldn't be a show if Tony didn't push something. It wouldn't be a show if he didn't mess something up.
Yes, Lord, I tell you.
Lynch Law. And I want to, Tony, again, I started with this. I want to end with, I'm grateful to serve the Lynch, the Chris Shaw family, and I serve alongside, Lynch Law is proud to serve alongside Harry Daniels from Harry Daniels Law Offices in LLC in Atlanta, Georgia, Demetria Watkins Howard in Dallas, and Scott Palmer and James Rogers of Dallas for Scott Palmer Law. I'm honored to serve alongside these incredible attorneys as we fight for justice for Chris Shaw. It's not a me thing. We work arm in arm together, and I certainly want to give credit where credit is due.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. On this month of October is National Domestic Violence Awareness and Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I want you to all to join us in October this month for podcast, and we will be having guests to discuss some of the facts and help that you would need and that will help you during that this month of Domestic Violence and Breast Cancer Month. On Tuesday, we're going to have Miss Linnell Renfro Fox. She is I don't even know how to say to
yes,
pronounce
we know.
my family name. I'm just so, I don't know. But we want to make sure you're here and join us Tuesday as we talk about the National Domestic Violence Awareness. With that being said, thank you guys so much for being a part of the show. And Attorney Lynch, we want to invite you back again when you've got more detail, and we want to keep this fire burning right here in Beaumont, Texas, okay?
I'd be honored to.
Thank you for watching Knowledge is Power Podcast Live. Be sure to like and subscribe to all Knowledge is Power social media pages.